of the interwebs. This is Gamer 1745 here. Just getting started, as obvious, because I'm just starting. Checking everything out, and we'll be talking about Burden of Command here in just a moment. Right. And yes, Arno is first here and everywhere today. Good to have you here, my friend. All right, let's make an episode here. Haven't made episodes in a while. Just streaming live, but we're going to make some episodes. Welcome, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and we're going to be taking a first look at Burden of Command. Really the first look for me as well as for you. It is, I will say this, I believe there is and we're taking a look at the demo here, and to even start up, it opens a dialogue window for some reason. I don't know. It's very early days. I want to just say that, and what we're going to be looking at here. Now, I'm going to, and this is a very interesting game for me. And I say that maybe it's more of an interesting game concept, and we're going to see how well it works out. So, and hello, Toy Jet. So I'm going to read their description on Steam here, where you can get, again, the demo version now, I believe, as well. Burden of Command is an emotionally authentic World War II tactical leadership RPG. You're the captain of a company of the fabled Cottonbalers. Don't know them right offhand. Like what division or battalion or whatever, I don't know. Leading your men on and off historical battlefields from Morocco to Hitler's Eagle's Nest. Fighting psychology as much as bullets, you must build respect, trust, battlefield experience to bring your brothers home safely. So I think, like I'm saying here, I think this is a exciting, interesting departure in war games. And we're going to see how much of a an RPG does have a battle element, obviously, or can. You can have a peaceful RPG, of course. But so we're going to be taking a look at this today and see how much there is here with this demo. I've just barely sort of started. There's a big, or there's an introductory talk, which we will listen to in a moment. But before we get into this, trying to focus my thoughts on how to say this. When you're one of the, and I think because you're a captain here in this game, I guess he looks fairly old for a lieutenant. And often lieutenants were quite young, so that's quite acceptable in sergeant. Particularly when you're one of these guys here. Not maybe so much the sergeant, but one of these guys here. And I will see how much this gets into it. And I'm trying to sound both realistically, but without also being too hyperbolic. Your job is to use up the lives of your men. Your job is not to bring everybody home alive at the end of the day, okay? Because, and now I know a lot of people may disagree with this, a lot of modern military people, especially in the West here, who fought. And I'm looking at this as a historian. I won't go into my personal life's history here of training and other experiences. I'm just talking from a historian's perspective here at the moment. A lot of, Western militaries have fought in places, and yeah, everybody comes home alive at the end of the day, often. But what we are seeing, especially in World War II, where combatants were, closely parallel to each other in capabilities. Once you went into combat, you've got to expect to lose people in that combat. So now you're supposed to use up your lives of your men as few as possible to achieve the objective. But see, that is the mission, is to achieve the objective. Now, if you can do it without any loss of life, great, perfect. But if it's going to take loss of life, well, it's going to take that. But you got to get that objective achieved. And so that is, use up the lives of your men. And so we're going to see how all this goes here with the campaign. We're going to start a new campaign. Cottonbalers demo. Or Balers, sorry, not ballers. Balers. Cottonbalers. While this demo does not, the final release will occasionally show disturbing images. Okay, so just keep that in mind.
Hello, this is Luke Hughes, lead designer for Burden of Command. And I'm breaking through the fourth wall today to thank you. Thank you for taking a risk on something new, a leadership RPG. I imagine you're here hoping to test your mettle as a leader emotionally, morally, tactically in World War II. For us to give you that experience, it means a risk for you. What's the risk? Well, a new thing requires, obviously, a learning curve. Learning curves can produce confusion and even frustration. And playtesting has shown that there is a learning curve for Burden. Two kinds. The easier part, new things that people haven't done before. Harder, things that people have done before, done differently. So I'm going to be breaking in occasionally to help you with video demonstrations and also discussion of the design purposes, why we did things you're not used to or violate some of your assumptions, to give you a credible leadership role-playing experience.
All right. Okay, we don't need to repeat that video. Okay, that first mile, 24 September 1942, Camp Pickett, Virginia. You can't pick. Morning dew dribbles down the bright leaves of the forest ahead. Platoon Sergeant Bennett leads the way beneath the canopy. That should be the hill, he notes, and gestures towards the rise to the east. Bit of a walk, but we're close. On his back is slung a standard issue M1, or standard issue American M1 rifle, near twin to your own. Okay. You should have said that 10 miles ago. I should take another. Should I take another? Sounds like he knows where he's going. We're going to go with sounds like he knows where he's going. There's no reason to second guess him. If the man can't admit he's wrong when he's definitely wrong, then he's not much of a leader. After all, Sergeant Bennett has been in the Army since before the big draft in 40. He knows his way around. I've been with two. I'm a recently commissioned lieutenant. I'm a reservist returning to the Army. I guess we're going to go with that. Loyalty plus. Oh, loyalty plus one. Okay, didn't read it. Just maybe I should hover over these things a bit more. Right. Good to hear Arno is getting better. You're watching the chat over on Twitch. Okay. Background set to reservist loyalty +1. You know your former trade, though it did take a few months to blow the rust off and fight off the civilian pounds. It's good that you had timed it because the Germans and Japanese seem determined to light the world on fire. The U.S. has yet to send many divisions overseas, but you know it's only a matter of time.
So here I am in boot camp somewhere in Virginia, 1942, just like you will be soon. I'm going to start with our first concept that will be familiar and unfamiliar, your first learning curve aspect. So, like games like XCOM and frankly many tactical games these days, we use action points. We call them order, and they're orders, and they have the green dots. So this leader has 4 action points. And no surprise, when he say moves, he spends an action point, as you can see happening there.
Right? So action points. U.S. Army will go to war in earnest soon. As an officer, your duty will be to lead the men of your platoon. You just have to find them first. Mouse over the book icons for history or image notes. Okay. Left click, just reading up here. Left click to select leader, right click to move them. WASD keys will move the camera. Use scroll wheel to zoom in, zoom out. Not terribly useful right now, but will be eventually. Okay. Okay, now he's selected. Okay. And right click. Closer now. Hills and mountains are always further than they seem. The gray circle that you saw float up indicates expenditure of an order. Burden of command runs on orders. Every unit has some, and you can't do anything but get shot at without one. Orders are spent to move a unit. You can usually move a unit multiple times. And it's a good view, good enough to see a few stragglers from your first platoon. Looks like the kitchen patrol is still on their way to the obstacle course. Sergeant Bennett notes, if we let them dog things, they'll never get there before dinner. Okay, no change. I'll order them to move up. Verbosity, yell down at those men. Wave them for. City is one of the 3 character traits. It reflects how much a leader likes to talk. City does not impact the tactical battlefield, but may add some chrome to the conversation. So, all right. So this is
This is a leadership RPG. We're always going to be focused on bringing out leadership aspects. In the Army, leaders are in charge of platoons, which is a group of squads or companies. And so there's a command structure, and we do that too. This is a squad here, part of my rifle platoon. For it to do something, I've got to order it. Or, if you want to make it simpler, activate it. So, did you see an order came up on me? Not just the squad. The squad paid its action point, but I'm just going to say order from now on. But I paid an order because effectively I ordered the squad.
okay. To gain their attention, then call out an order. Conditioned by training they obey. A squad must be activated to utilize their own orders. A leader will spend an order to activate a squad. When that squad's initially shoots move, once the squad has been activated, they have enough direction that they can then expend 1 or 2, or expend 2 or even 3 orders without requiring a further leader order for the rest of the turn. Okay. Right. Now I want to say something here, and I hope sometimes, when I watch a video, I want to get to the information that I want to get to. Sometimes I like to hear people go on about things related to to what we're looking at this game. And since this is a leadership RPG, I want to look at or discuss briefly, and it will be brief, at least by my standards, the big change. In in Western military thought, by mid 18th century, and this is very much what Luke was talking about there, the guy who's talking about this, soldiers were trained, conditioned to do things by orders, very much so. And they were conditioned not to do things unless ordered to do so, particularly on the battlefield, but that does go off the battlefield as well. And that was very important because of the type of weapons in the 18th century. The effectiveness was most often determined by the group doing everything in unison. And as we probably will see in this game eventually here, the biggest factor in warfare or in battles is not really death or injury for winning or losing those battles. It does play a role, the death or injury, but it is not the biggest factor. It is morale. It is often the side that breaks the first, is, they're the losers. And then there's often, especially if you're looking at the 18th century, that's when, after that point, that's when most of the casualties actually happen. So that they were, in essence, trying to get them to be automatons, robots, that kind of thing. And you have that on one side of this big change. On the other side of the big change, you have soldiers trained to do for themselves, or, think for themselves. And like my understanding wasn't there. My understanding, the army that was most flexible in this was the German army. One of the more rigid command armies was the American army, often quite the opposite from what propaganda talks about the armies, if you look at propaganda of the war. But that's changed, and if you look at the way a lot of the modern soldiers are, yes, they're drilled into, a routine of, how to get out of an APC, who's going to the left, who's going to the right, that there's definitely a drill element there, but there's also a think for yourself and, to say engage the enemy or whatever. There's a lot more of independent actions. And so you see this transition from very regimented in the middle of the 18th century. Then you're looking by roughly about the middle of the 19th century, the American Civil War, where you really have the first time I would say large scale rifled bullet rifles. Could be muzzle loaders, could be breech loaders, mostly muzzle loaders still. So you're now up the accuracy, and you're now making the ideal of big or close groups of men all keeping close together a bad idea. You look at the Crimean War, because American Civil War, the 1860s, and Crimean War is the 1850s. I think the British are still mostly using smoothbore muskets. Oh, I know they have rifle units, and I think the Russians entirely are using smoothbore muskets. And then you're looking later with the 1870s with the Franco-Prussian War, with now breech, single shot breech loading, bolt action, rifles, and then into the Boer War, um, where you see the Boers sniping at the British that are trying to move in formation, and their commandos, which are an organizational size unit, very much operating independently. Sure, there may be a command, don't shoot until you're told to, or something for a surprise ambush, but you're not being told which target to shoot at, kind of things. And then into the First World War, and we see that change. So World War II is not entirely there. Okay, so we need to okay, left click on the squad and select it. Moving them will cost the leader. Okay, so we click here and then we right click there. Okay, call for double time, Lieutenant. Sergeant Burnett asks. When a squad first activated in a round, the leader must expend an order. After that, the squad can use its orders without additional cost.
This squad has been activated. The leader no longer needs to pay an order to activate it. So let's move it, and you'll see no action from the leader. He didn't spend another order.
Right. So yes, I really like the way this game is so far shaping up. I know we're at the very, very early elements. So you get the idea that the squad now, shall we say, well, one, the squads exist. You go back to, well, I mean, they're around. They're sort of kind of around, but really movements are done like in platoons, and they're done, or larger formations. And they move exactly where they're told to move. Where here, you can, because of training, you tell them to move and then say, and I'm taking this sort of, the follow on is sort of, shall we say, independent path finding by the squad. I'm not talking in the game, I'm talking in real life, is that the squad is trained and you tell it to move from point A to point B. It then knows enough to know the best way, looking at the terrain, to try to move between point A and point B. The leader element, the platoon, the company or platoon commander does not need to be told how to do that. And hello, Eric, my friend.
So I'm going to come down there, join my squad, lead, grab them both, and go somewhere. Now this time, they'll both pay an order. But be careful, it's not an activation order. They're both moving. You don't get a free ride. You got to pay for the move too. So, there you go. We're similar to games you're used to. Action points. But in this case, they're really orders, and they involve things like squad activation.
Here they are. Sergeant Bennett notes as Sergeant Layton, no relation. Okay. Don't know what that's. And his kitchen patrol reached the summit. Layton, can you see the obstacle course from here? Breathless Sergeant Layton nods in the affirmative. His fellow spud peelers are all but ready to drop. Now, I'm guessing this is sort of the kitchen patrol is the guys who, KP, that have been sort of slackers, shall we say, and been given orders to do things. Now, this is a very interesting photo here. To me, it looks colorized, so I do often question colorized photos because I think they're lying to me. But I don't know if anybody in out there tell me what is particularly interesting about this photo. Now, I will say the uniform color very well may be a cheap drill or field training type uniforms, so that it's sort of grayish. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm giving the people, I just noticed this. Now, a lot of the web gear, particularly early on, was tan. Some of it does move a bit more to the green. I'm not sure the determining factor. Now we see here this guy, I don't know if there's a pistol in that holster. There's a regular belt where he has a belt out there. Okay, well, I don't see anybody yet. I don't know if there's anybody over on YouTube, but nobody on Twitch has made that I'm finding this interesting. Okay. Well, it's a weapon that was not used, to my knowledge, by the Americans in World War II. That is a P-17 rifle made during World War I. The P-17 is a rechambering of the P-14. The P-14 is a .303 British version of the Mauser rifle. Once the U.S. enters World War II, they switch the calibers over and start producing them. I don't think any of them were ever really sent overseas in World War II, so I don't think that, they weren't used out in the Pacific. As far as I know, they were using Springfields, which is a different interpretation of the Mauser. But just sort of interesting there. So this is not just that they're climbing over a wall with ropes and footholds or whatever, but that rifle is not a rifle that would be going overseas. So that is just, to me, an interesting thing. And so these are, kitchen patrol wouldn't necessarily be real fuck-ups or real problem people, but just sort of slackers or others that needed a little extra attention to keep them. Okay. Let's see. I don't know. Clearly they can't go very far with us. If only they were in better shape. They're not part of the company. We're going to go with only they're in better shape. I don't know how that affects things. From this site, you can also see a little stream whose serpentine channel marks the bounds of your training area. The stream isn't far, which is a good thing. The stream, like the other terrain, costs movement points to cross. Other than flat open land, you won't always be able to get somewhere in a single order, especially with a squad in tow. One last push. Should put your boots beside the streams, spent perhaps, but the position nonetheless. But first you will have to detach from Leighton's squad. The first left click of a hex selects both units in it. The second left click of either leader portrait or the squad below will select only that unit. Do not follow Luke's example in the video and instead rebel and left click the leader portrait repeatedly until only the leader is highlighted. When you move them out, they will separate from the squad. All right. And hello, Lord Samuel. Yes. I've just sort of in an online way, I've gotten to know some of the development element people for this game at Burden of Command, I should say. And over the years that they've been having this game in development, and I've very much look forward to the game. We will see how it actually plays out. And this, again, everybody who's, I know some people are showing up in this. This is a very early demo, people. So now I don't think necessarily substantially the terrain's going to look different or other elements are going to be different substantially. I see this more as a, just work in progress. Keep that in mind. Okay, so left click on the leader repeatedly until the leader is highlighted. Okay. Okay, so we have that. I think right click and move the leader. Only confirm move just lieutenant unnamed.
Honestly, it would have been simplest to design the game as 1 unit per hex, like many games do. But frankly, it just felt wrong not to have leaders in with their men leading them. So we committed to simple stacking: 1 leader, 1 squad per hex. So then how do you manage selection? It's simple. Click any unit in the hex, both select, because you probably want to move both of them normally. But maybe you just want to move the leader this time. Click again. And here I am. So I'll do the same thing again. I'll click the squad, and I go back and forth between just the squad and both.
Okay, very interesting. And hello, Beam Slam. Good to have you here, my friend. And going to be interesting. Yeah, company size tanks. We'll see how that goes. I do believe there will be tanks in this once the organization, or since the organization very different from the standard infantry one. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I don't know if you're going to be doing a just how big the units will be for something like tanks. Whether those would be an independent thing. Maybe you've watched a video on it, because I know there are a few videos I haven't looked yet that the company's made. And Eric has picked up his first active, real getting bullets. I mean, because he sort of kind of has a very ancient thing. Um, First rifle, a Krag. So he's going to go to the range. That's very good. Download the demo. Yeah, okay, good. Beam Slam. Good, good, good. The drive was good. Okay. So, yes, I knew you had a drive and a ferry ride. Haven't finished it yet. We'll see how far we get in during this live stream. I didn't know if if it was going to be short and I needed to go to another um, game after it, or if this will take a while. Yeah, there's a lot to do here, or I mean, a lot to learn with this game for sure. And I just quickly read this stuff, but like I say, I've been sort of interacting with these guys on Twitter for a while. They gave me slightly earlier access than most people. I mean, there's probably a few other streamers or whatever they also gave some access to. I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I really just sort of been busy and decided it's going to be the Saturday game. And so, yeah, you guys can check it out too. And I do highly encourage you to check it out. But like I say again, it's very early access demo. So please forgive, the dust around here with these guys. But I know I've talked to them a bit over the years about some of the concepts of this. Okay, down by the stream. Let's take a breather. Sergeant Bennett suggests, but we're almost there. At this point, your leader should be out of orders. 3 to move your leader, 1 to activate the KP squad. KP squad, self move twice, normal amount. Green rifle strike, orders refresh. Started it. Okay, out of orders means we can't do anything. What if I didn't move the squad? Veterans have more orders. Let's do that. Veteran squads or special combat units might have 3 orders instead of 2. Veteran officers might have 5 orders instead of 4, but let's leave that for later. Everything important in Bird and Command costs an order. Want to move a leader, an order. Want to move a squad, leader pays an order to activate the squad. Then shooting or assaulting, we'll get to those, but yep, an order. Since there are currently no enemy units around, just pass around until a new game turn begins. Okay, so these guys are up here. Okay, so end the round. The forest thins the last you spy a hint of civilization, a little wooden bridge that crosses a gully and a low wooden wall behind it. We are beyond it. The clearing should be just up ahead, Lieutenant. Calls back the movement order can span a single hex or 4, but the order cost remains the same. Okay. Here. The assembly point is a simple one marked on a low retaining wall striped with white. A sight at the sight of it, Sergeant Bennett flashes you a grin and stashes the map. There's a figure waiting there in the lee of that wall, a fellow officer with the silver bars of a captain upon his collar and a dreaded clipboard in hand. Right? You're nearly late, Lieutenant, the field umpire notes as he regards you, the pencil in his grasp doom plenty of officers to obscurity with a swift judgment. We'll, we'll salute. Sergeant gives you a firm warning cough, but comes too late. The field umpire shakes his head slightly when the field such gestures are apt to attract snipers. Ah, okay. Sarcasm. Don't think I want to not do sarcasm. I believe, well, let me just, I think I can quickly get to it. Save a lot of information. Probably too much. At least often to find what I'm looking for. See if I can find this quickly here, so then I can get the date right. But I know the story. All right, okay. Let's see if we get this. Oh, right, yes. I have a photo here, just digital photo of two soldiers shaking hands. One with an M1 Garand, one with, can't see it well, but look, you see the bolt handle on it, but so it looks like a Springfield. And it's dated April 1941. Now, this is in 42, September, I believe this game is going on. And, I'm going to pull up the Discord channel, and I'm going to drop this photo in there. This will maybe be an encouragement for people to join the Discord. That's the information and that is basically the time of changeover from, if you will, not exactly a World War I uniform, but the sort of interwar uniform that was used to the World War II uniform, and particularly one thing that, other than the semi-auto rifle versus a bolt action rifle, but is the sort of Brody helmets that we're seeing here, is the change. Now, of course, the changeover. So that's happening right around April 41, before the war starts. There. Hello, Elizabeth. They're changing over the helmets. Now, you'll notice from any historical photos and good movies representing it, the American Army out in the Pacific is still using the older equipment styles. So, including bolt action rifles, mostly. Not 100% on that, but mostly bolt action rifles. This Brody helmet, which is very, very similar, it's just minor technical differences between this and what the British used, is designed for World War I. And it's really, really good for World War I. And what's happening in World War I is there are two things that are causing the overwhelming number of casualties. One, a machine gun, the Maxim or the Vickers, those are, at least for most nations. I know the Austrians have the Schwarzlose and the Italians have the Ravelli, and the Americans show up with a few machine guns, sort of, kind of. Mostly end up using French Hotchkisses, but yes. the Hotchkiss, obviously, there. The other is artillery of either heavy or light, mortars or whatever types. And this helmet here is designed to protect you from an airburst round and the shrapnel coming down. Now, if it's obviously a big chunk of it, it's just going to go right through the helmet. But it's designed to do that, and do that about the best possible way that you can. So it's wide brimmed, it's set up like that. Now, in World War II, especially by the time the Americans, in 41, because you've already had the fall of France and the watching of that, come up with a very, very good helmet. We can talk about some of the Soviets' helmets. We can talk about the German helmet. But the Americans come up with a very, very good helmet for World War II, because you don't have the concentration of units and artillery barrages like you do in the First World War. Because barbed wire slows everything up, and then the trenches, so you can bring up lots of artillery and bombard things. So yeah, you are worried about fragments coming out of the sky, but you're more worried about bullets zipping through the area horizontally, as well as things like grenades or mortars that are making ground impacts and are throwing up, and notice the angle I'm doing with this, throwing up fragments this way. So a helmet that more encompasses the skull on the sides is a better helmet, I would say, for World War II than the Brody. So the Brody is great for World War I, but not ideal for World War II. So, and what did Elizabeth? U.S. Marines had it rough. Springfields and the SMG made them made for them. The Rising had no saltwater element protection, and most rusted. Yes. Oh, you're talking about the Rising submachine gun. Yeah. Machine gun and carbine. Yeah. The Marines are a heavy element in the Pacific, but the Army is also there. Sort of look when, where, but basically the Army is still a bigger commitment to the Pacific than the Marines. Now, a lot of Chester Nimitz's oh boy, yeah, is it Chester Nimitz? Yeah, I think so. Boy, Nimitz, his campaign of progress from the Eastern Pacific across the Western Pacific is very much a Marine affair. But MacArthur's, there are some Army divisions that are added to that. But MacArthur's move up out of Australia is more of an Army affair, with Marines there too. They're there too. Yeah. Starting in the war, out in the Pacific, the standard rifle. I do think they have some M1 Garands in the Philippines, but those are just only very recently arrived if they have it. But I know most are equipped with Springfield rifles. The Rising doesn't. Rising shows up sort of, I think, mid-war. But yeah, it's just fair. There's not enough Thompsons early on, though they're around. The M1 carbine starts to show up a bit later, so it's mostly the bolt action rifle, the 45 ACP, the 1911 pistol, and then your 1917 and 1919 machine guns and your 50 cal, and that's for the light small arms. That's about it. And I will definitely say I much prefer the Springfield over the what we call the Arasaka, the Type 99, but on a general use level, they're equal. There's little drawbacks to either one, over it, but they're basically equal. So yeah, it's the early on the fighting equipment is pretty similar. It's later in the war, the Americans are just overwhelming the Japanese in firepower. Okay, today you'll undertake a leadership exercise consisting of no less than 3 separate field problems. The field umpire says you and your men will be assessed based on the outcome, including both objectives achieved and casualties sustained. You will take command of your rifle squad and we will proceed. Any questions? Is this live fire exercise? Where is my rifle squad? What is the mission for this field problem? I guess that sounds like the best one. We'll get to that shortly. The field umpire says they like their surprises. Yes. And yes, obviously, are those jackets leather? Oh, back there. Quite possibly but standard infantry don't have leather jackets. So sorry, I didn't see that question soon enough to look more carefully at it. I know this is a game. I know modern audiences expect color, but to me these are lying to me. Okay, I I I I will use them as thumbnails because thumbnails are like explain to an author a book cover, the dust jacket kind of thing is there to get people to buy the book. Whatever it is to sell the book. So I will on thumbnails, but I really sort of hate with a passion colorized images because they lie to me. They lie, lie, lie. I don't like it. And the Marines were lucky to fight Japan, which had no standard issue SMG. The Type 99 was barely product to my knowledge. Oh, if you're talking about the Type 99 like submachine gun, yeah, or whatever. I'm talking about the rifle, the bolt action Arisaka rifle. I thought it was a Type 99, but there is a Japan does have it. Japan, I don't. I mean, I've watched. I did a years ago. Now you can see a long playthrough of Japan and in Hearts of Iron 3. And I actually, gearing up for it, I read several books, um, watched a bunch of documentaries on the Pacific War, several from the Japanese perspective or just about Japan. Um, but I'm far from an expert on Japan. Reading, you know. Oh, I'm sure I have more than 200 books on World War II, and I have consumed more than half of them. Well, more than half of them, and those that I haven't fully consumed, I've consumed great chunks of them. So, I've read a lot on World War II, but it's more European theater based, if you will, whatever you want to call it, North Africa, etc. Um, I don't think Japan had the doctrinal need for a submachine gun. They bought some MP-34s, I believe, from Austria, the Solotherms, or MP-35s is same basic gun, just different names for it. In 9 millimeter, they bought a bunch of those, used those, and bought before the war starts, and in I think in the low thousands, just a few thousand or something. And they did eventually develop a submachine gun. The Arisaka Type 100. Something like that. The SMG, light machine gun. Okay, Type 99 was light machine gun, similar to the Bren. The Type 100 was the submachine gun. Yeah, but there's also a rifle there, I think, Arno. Yeah, and the sometimes those types and numbers I think refer to years, but it's not. Our modern international is based on how since I don't know. Some of them are based on um, Year of the Emperor or something. I don't know, but I I don't keep them all straight. So Um, so I don't think it's an engineering problem when it comes to Japan and submachine guns. I think it's a doctrinal issue. Their doctrines. Their army is developed fighting in Korea and then against the Russians, in 1905, and then against China. And that's how they're developed. And quite honestly, and from the descriptions that I've heard of how the Chinese fought, including one description by General Stilwell during some of the warlord period, that Stilwell's a fascinating character. Um, Most of the top-ranking generals highly respected him as a military commander. He might have been a brilliant commander that just ended up in the um, theater not to show it off. Um, but he had a lot of before the war starts. He had a lot of experience in China, including at least one sort of maybe not so authorized um, trip to go watch um, some of the Chinese fight the Chinese and some of that stuff. And one of the descriptions, if I remember correctly from him, was that the Chinese soldiers would be moved in formation. Talked earlier about keeping in formations and whatnot and under command, be moved around in formation, move near to where the enemy was, and then they just sit down. They just be sat there, while the artillery and machine guns exchanged fire with the opposition forces. And once that sort of kind of looked like it had its effect, or not, but if it did have its positive effects, then the infantry would be told to do something. And I think a lot of this comes down to no ammunition for training, or super little for it, very little ammunition on their persons, because even if you have 40 rounds of ammunition, you can blow that even in a bolt action very quickly. And if you don't have resupply anywhere, that then takes the morale of your soldiers with just a bayonet with somebody shooting at them to a very low level, and most will decide to run away. So lack of supply. Why shoot your rifle ammunition up? Just keep the machine guns going, and when you think it's time to put the boot in, to finally push the enemy out of the position or the enemy is fleeing, then you send in your infantry, your rifles, in to deal with it. Well, that's who the Japanese are fighting, who have a much more, they have the willingness to, go in with the bayonet against, guys working bolt action rifles and whatnot, if not machine gun positions. And Japan's admittedly also limited industrial capacity. I don't know that you need or want a submachine gun. You want your machine guns, whether you're light or you're medium or heavies, you want to get them into a good position and start pounding enemy positions, certainly. And that's where you expend a lot of your ammo, is at the machine guns. And then when it's ready, you go in with your men with rifles with bayonets on them to scare the enemy away and shoot at them once in a while as you're charging them. And that kind of tactical doctrine is probably pretty good, and where, and again, with this game here, is we're looking at it. What is, and this is, I've looked at years ago from the movie The Longest Day, the D-Day thing. And, follows one of the, sort of a lieutenant or a captain or whatever that parachutes in, at night. And so you're a lieutenant or captain or whatever, and you parachuted at night into Normandy, and you're all alone. What's your responsibility? Find a soldier. one of your soldiers, preferably, obviously. Find them and tell him what to do. Your job is not to pick up your M1 carbine and go assault a German position. Your job is to find one soldier and tell him to march over there, and maybe try to find more than one, of course. But your job is to create order out of chaos and get them to, get the objective, capture the bridge, whatever. Your job isn't to go be, Audie Murphy and go capture the bridge on your own. Your job is to coordinate other men. So, if you're looking at the Japanese, why would you have an NCO or somebody with a submachine gun? His job is to coordinate the rifle guys. And it comes down to doctrine more so, I think, than technical difficulties on the machine gun. Yes, Type 100, also known as the Terra rifle, who was made for Japanese paratroopers. Yes, there are some stuff that now paratroopers, like they have a different concept. They've got to parachute into an area and carry as much firepower as they can. So a submachine gun, and this is sort of nomenclature. The Germans, instead of having a submachine gun, they just have machine pistole, which is basically a machine gun that shoots pistol rounds. It's not really a pistol that's a machine gun, like we would use a machine pistol, referring to that would be a full automatic pistol in essence. And yeah, there's gray areas between what's a what, in that category. But the Germans are just looking anything that's shooting pistol caliber bullets in a fully automatic package is a machine pistol. The rest is just a machine gun. Yeah, you want lots of smaller bullets, and you can, of course, shoot them semi-automatically instead of bigger bullets, like when you're doing this. Okay, is this a live fire exercise? No, the field umpire, there may be an occasional live round fired safely for effect, but otherwise, all right. Budget constraints. He says, well, I would not, well, by 42, I don't know that this would, now I know these guys have probably researched a lot more, but I would not think there would be budget constraints. I would think that there would be one of two things. One is current ammunition production. It's not budget. It's it's how many factories have they turned on and are producing ammunition, and when they get them turned on and produce it by after the war starts. This is September, if I remember correctly, 42. So it's been not quite a year into the war for the Americans, but and so they're still ramping up production, and of course they're sending ammunition to where it needs to be, and not so much guys out training. And two, safety. I would go safety issues back in the U.S. Where's my rifle squad? Over there, the umpire says and waves a hand across the field. They should not be hard to find. That's all of my questions. Right, okay. Hope you all find my pontificating interesting to go along with this. But we're going to keep the live stream going, but we're going to end this episode here. I will maybe be putting these up as episodes very soon. Hopefully you find those watching later Burden of Command interesting, as well as my commentary about, not so much about the game, but about history and people and all that. So see you next time for more historical wargaming. All right, let's start another one. Hello, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745, and we're about to start the second exercise here for Burden of Command. An exciting new war game that is out as a demo. And I say exciting, it's more the exciting concept. It is a concept based more on the psychology of leadership than the tactics of squads. So it's a psychological war game. And this goes back to what I believe it was the Germans pioneering, called Kriegsspiel. And hey, you thought you were going to jump right into some action. No, you get to have gamer chatting. there had definitely, back in the 19th century, there had definitely been a idea of wargaming, probably much more on the higher level commands, because if you're just training and drilling a battalion, you don't need a war game to do that. But Kriegspiel, or I guess war talk would be a blunt English translation of it, was a war game in which you often fought against another opponent, and you and the opponent were in two different rooms, and in a third room was where the map, or the map with all the official positions on it. And so you would get either someone giving you a verbal report, and you had a map out in front of you. You may have had, I don't know, counters or poker chips or something, to put on the map, or draw on it or something. I don't know. But and so you would get reports, or written reports from your subordinate command. It's like, oh, I've moved to the river near the bridge. Okay, and so then a unit whatever, and so that commander might move the uh, the counter for that unit near the river, or next to the river by the bridge. Now you're sort of hoping that that's the right river and the right bridge, if you know what I mean, because there might be more than one river, but that was where he's supposed to go. Now he may have gotten lost and showed up at a different bridge, same river or something like that. But and the idea was is then he'd get report getting heavy fire from wherever, and another commander getting light fire from some other place. Well, where do you send your reinforcements? And who's judging what's heavy and light fire? Because they may be both getting the same levels of fire. You're just getting these reports. So it was training to be an officer based upon not knowing everything, if you know what I mean. Like we often have um, a fog of war in a lot of these war games. But depending on the war game, you often really identify what the enemy is now, but not always. So um, when we're looking at something like this, we're going to see how um, you know the fog of war, the psychology of command, when orders and whatnot work out. Can you still purchase the original Kriegspiel? Oh, you can still markers well made after the originals. Very interesting. And Arno, there's a bot over on Twitch if you haven't killed it yet. Yes, and so yes, I didn't know that you could still get those original ones, but yeah, that'd be cool. Also, some Napoleonic and other maps. Yes, so yeah, and there's and that's what, to me, now we're going to see that this to me is a wonderful leadership training tool, because and we're just scratching the surface here, but it's how to organize up stuff. Path may use the fuse, but it doesn't utilize terrain. Right. The squad is not far away. And this is what, and yes, by right click, control right click to establish. Oh, okay. Control right click will establish waypoints. Good. That's one of those of you who watch me a lot know that I don't trust AIs and whatnot, so I can establish waypoints to here to keep them moving through cover instead of moving down the river where I would set them. If I was around here, if this is an open field hex, then I would set it up back, the one hex behind it. This is a forested hex, but it doesn't look like it. So I would set it up here. But if it was, I would set up here, and I'd have my machine guns looking right down, or just a rifle squad, right down here, ready to shoot anybody who's trying to cross the river or who's moving along the river. That's what I would do. See, I'm a brilliant general. Oh, I'd love to see the link. I don't know if I'll buy them, but it'd be interesting to take a look at. With that in mind, you lead the way. Okay, the mission finished, the men don't get. Okay, the mission. Finish the mission exercise before turn 4. The men don't get anyone killed. Okay. Okay, so we've got 4 turns here. Keep that in mind. I take that as to be the primary thing is to get the mission accomplished. The secondary one is to not get anybody killed. Okay, left click to select all the units in a hex. 2, right click to move them. Control right click on a hex to set waypoint. One order may move a unit many hexes. This reminder may seem repetitive, and it is, but moving units, especially through terrain. Okay, so select your leader, have a move to here. I'm going to risk moving this across the open. Blam, field umpire calls out from behind. You move, Lieutenant Einstein, you moved open ground where a sniper could see you. Oh, I was thinking the building was the objective. That is potentially fatal risk to take, and the dead leader was no help to any right waypoints. Okay. Right. Okay. I get that. I got that. I was figuring, well, yeah. Some of these images look like they're from HBO Band of Brothers. I think all these images are colorized old photos so far. Maybe I'm missing something here. This is very much, and I don't know how much is left over from World War One. I mean, they have the grip color the same as the holster color there. Not quite. Okay, but this backpack is the older style backpack. Yeah, these guys are with interwar uniforms. Okay, Lieutenant, you are revised from the sniper call. Umpire says continue with the exercise. Our squad looks beat. Sergeant Bennett says it's true, but by all appearances, they can't possibly take another step. Some might say their morale is low. Right now, it's a dog dick low. Okay. Like they've been suppressed, but they don't have to stay that way for now. What would you? I'll give them a speech. Give them a speech for Boss City. You could, Lieutenant. It might even work if you lead them forward or forward afterwards. Either way, I'll kick a little ass. Good morale. Moderate morale, bad morale. Okay.
Thank you, Sergeant Bennett. Sergeant Bennett is reminding me I need to teach you about the backbone of your company's performance. It's morale. So here we have a good order squad. It's green, no suppression, has 2 orders, moves about 3 hexes. If it tries to move under fire, pass the morale check to do that, about 70%. And if it fires at an enemy, 50-50. Now notice those initiative wheels, donuts I like to call them. You really want to win initiative, because if you win initiative, you fire first, you suppress the enemy, reduce their morale, and then their fire back will be weak. Now let's look by contrast at this shaken company. It's yellow. It's lost about half its morale to suppression. First thing to notice, subtly, is it only moves 2 squares forward. It can still retreat because they're more cautious because they're shaken. Also, let's notice one more thing, only 1 order. So the morale is actually reduced the total quantity of actions you can give this squad. Pretty bad. And guess, if you fire at them, not going to go so well. You're going to lose. And the morale check's unlikely. Finally, let's look at these poor guys. About 9 points of suppression. They're red. They're basically cowering. They won't even move forward. Though you can still move them back to get rallied, maybe behind a hill or in some cover. I wouldn't bother trying to fire. Not going to work. and you can give up on assault. Now, friend, let's have a little fun here. This is a 3-star unit, very experienced. What do you notice? It's got 3 orders, not 2. That's a big win. And guess how it's going to do in firefights? Very well. And guess how it's going to do on morale checks? Hey, it doesn't even have to pass a morale check to move under fire. Work hard, Captain. Maybe you'll have units like this eventually. Lead them well.
Okay. Now we'll remove some fresh squads. Okay, good. Your men want guidance leadership, and that's what you're here. Most leaders must be grouped up with a squad to utilize certain orders. A captain would be an exception to that, but do not worry about this right now because you're yes. Okay. Select the leader, then rally the squad and consume 1 leader point. Okay. Want to select a leader and rally them. Select, okay. To rally them, rallying squad will also retrieve orders reading this. Left click to select all the units in the hex, then left click the rally button and oh, change facings. Looking for rally button. I don't see a rally button. Then draw, mission draw, scripted events. 1 by fire, right? Hold fire. Change facings, I get that. Ah, here we are. Okay. Now that we got them both properly, let's select the order. Right click to. There, we'll do this. Okay, we've done an action. Let's be once you're organized, we can get on with the exercise. Field umpire tilts his head doubtfully. The men will be ready, but the question is, ready for what? The squad is out of orders. I have rallied. When can I move? Okay, the squad is out of orders. It's enough for the men that are on their feet. Okay. Wave of blue flags are exchanged. The exercise will shortly resume, as long as either side has leader with an order. Right. Okay.
Anyone got a light?
Right. Okay, so we just need to end this for now. Okay, end of round 1, more time to the end of the turn. The reason you have to end the round is to ensure that if the other orders you can give. Okay. Okay, tile sets. Okay. You are ready. The men are ready. The enemy is likely ready. The enemy had a round to activate its units, but did nothing with it. Interesting that the enemy did nothing in response. Wonder what the clipboard units have to say next. That's, of course, all right, Lieutenant. So the enemy is in that house down there, he says, and ignores Bennett as he points. You can hear from the clockwork tick of his watch faint but steady. Deploy your men and take them under fire. Remember, this is exercise time. Okay, squad versus squad. This will be a tough one. Even odds. There was a lot of that in the last war, right? Let's see. Oh, well, click too much. Okay. No rest for the wicked. Let's get going. Back to that. Going over the wall image. You'll have to fight like we trained. Okay. Tune together again. Let's bolster their spirit, Sergeant Bennett says. It's always better to bolster morale, though it doesn't last long, but maybe it will be just long enough for what comes next. Okay.
Remember Sergeant Bennett's wise comment that morale is the backbone of your company's performance? Well, what do you think the role of leadership is then? Of course, it's to manage that morale. Let's look at your tools. One of them is bolster. So here we have a good order unit. And if we were to attack, it'd be 50-50 on the attack. It moves 3 squares. It has 70% morale check. But let's bolster it. A lot more movement. Hey, it's going to pass that morale check. And look at the firefight. Bolster enhances an already good unit so it is significantly more effective, especially for firefights. The experience and the trust of the leader comes to bear. Don't make the mistake, however, of thinking of bolster as sort of a poor man's rally, rally for one action. I've moved the leader down to this shaken squad, half morale, and I'm thinking, well, it's pretty poor for a firefight right now. Maybe I'll bolster it and I'll be fine. Well, there's some improvement. If you study this, you see the suppress predictions are a little bit better, but you're still going to lose initiative. It's not a rally. If you want a unit with shaken or below morale to improve, rally. Rally, by contrast, fully restores morale for the long term. Of course, it does take a turn to do, so you'll have to pick the time and place for when you rally, for when you bolster, or for when you orchestrate your platoon and company to be effective all at once, rather than dribble in an attack on the enemy.
Okay, bolster will provide boosters. Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, we bolster this. You're ready, Sergeant. Where to? Should we have Grant march down or go ahead? Time to make a decision. There's a lot of things you might want to order, but there's never enough time for the men to carry those out. Nevertheless, you prepare to do what you can. Okay, so let's rally this squad and move it. Move squad with waypoint. I'm going to click this and get control. Alright. Yeah, you can also allow the squad to activate it, even if the leader is not grouped with the orders will still. Okay. We get to. So then, there they are. The Sergeant Bennett says, as your men pass the word that they've sighted movement in the house, but those damn walls give them better cover than anything we've got nearby. The umpire with a clipboard makes a note, a lengthy one. Give the men some direction, and the umps will take notes. says your men preparing to place reveals the enemy under their crosshairs. Every little bit helps us build up for the fire against them before they do the same. Right. Okay, so we have this here. Right, we've bolstered these guys, I guess. Okay, shoot here. They're out of orders. Blocked LOS. Okay, well, you don't have line of sight there. Shoot here if you're out of orders and around. Okay. Right. Okay. It was pushing us forward, but without our squad just open fire without a plan. Sergeant says that we could get good as the Jerry's if we have time to unsupervised. Okay. But speed was of the essence. Speed is no value if there's insufficient force. Okay. Where are my marks for the day? The day is not over. Okay. Okay. Okay, Sergeant Bennett falls in as you head back to your platoon. No matter what you choose, the ump was going to find fault, like being married, but without the fun part. Hell, I bet it getting something wrong with the point of the lesson, moving just one squad ahead of the others was a bold choice too. Can't deny that. All right, yes. There are no good answers. Yes, there's often no. Okay. A lot to take in. You'll have to keep your eyes and ears open. Okay, yes, loyalty earned, prestige earned 7. Good. And what? Oh no, gamer fighting the French. Yes, I saw that. They were like Vichy French, it looked like. No one out of action, sir. Okay.
A good leader needs to be able to think ahead, anticipate a situation, and make a decision based on the best information available.
At last, the fighting dies down. Okay. Mission draw, reference draw. This is my. Okay, let's see. This is the next one. Captain earns extra trash space. Okay. Now, another thing I want to say about this, and you should definitely watch Band of Brothers series, what was it on HBO or whatever. Really great. I'm sure you can find it on the interwebs nowadays. And there's the guy from the Friends series, which I never really watched, who was like their first commander and was getting lost with a map exercise on it. He's definitely presented in the movie as pathetic. whether that's the reality of the historical figure that he was portraying or not, I don't know. But that definitely comes as he's lost confidence of his men. His men are not confident in what he, in his leadership. And a unit is not just a collection of well-trained men. It is a unit that is trained together, if you understand. So you have the idea that, yeah, all these guys know their job. The machine gunner knows how to do the machine gun, and the mortar man knows how to do the mortar, and the rifle guy knows how to shoot his rifle and knows how to move from cover to cover. But it's get all of these, these people to work together in a coherent um, formation. So, okay, click on the portrait on the right to view and aid your men. Okay, so I guess I don't know. Am I supposed to? Okay, commander experience earned, applies, let's see. I like, okay. Okay, it's taking up here. So, okay, so if we do a +1 here, lose 2, 2. Okay, so we can get this. Supporting elements, I don't know how much we need to have those as, everything would be lovely to have elites. Let's, we can't improve him. And I don't think we have enough for anybody else. Okay, I understand. Sure thing, Arno. Okay. So we've aided our men. We've done that. Continue your journey. All right. A second chance. Didn't know we needed that. Gerald actually
Well, it was infantry. Infantry. Infantry is different than cavalry.
So what?
We didn't have horses, but they had light tanks. The cavalry did.
So what kind of training then would you have in the infantry?
Bayonet. The bayonet. Hand grenade. You don't throw a hand grenade like a baseball. You lob it.
The soldiers of your platoon are wearing their boots as they march back to their starting places. The morning run and the recent field problem have both clearly taken their toll. Platoon Sergeant Bennett glances your way, and the unspoken question is whether to quicken or slacken pace. It lingers between you two. Well, this is training. Our little experience will eventually performance. Let's see. I don't want to let okay, the men will be slightly fatigued except for a little. They will also eventually agree. No, we're going to double time. We're going to push them. This is training. This is exhaust them. Oh, let me see if I can get this quote right about the Roman training is bloodless battles. Roman battles are bloody training. I think I have that somewhat right there. And so, yeah. Okay, Bennett passes along your orders, followed by a few choice insults to put the men into columns. Falls out until accessibly. Um, oh, I'd love to get us back to our watch parties. We used to do watch parties on Discord, everyone. They were pretty good. Unfortunately, they were not well attended. Not that I wanted hundreds of people; that would probably cause problems. But we used to watch all kinds of movies. But just life got in the way, partially for me, partially for other people. But I've watched Saving Private Ryan. I'll probably watch it again someday. But it's a harsh movie to watch. It's sort of rather fatalistic in its actions. The Band of Brothers isn't quite so tough to watch, and they're realistic. But I would also say the combat footage is realistic in the movie The Longest Day. Now I wasn't there, and but combination of like listening to that veteran talk a bit, and others, as well as seeing footage taken on the day. Um, but a really good movie that explores small unit combat. I had it slipped out. Damn, as I started to talk about this. Oh God, I hate when this happens. Battleground. Battleground. One of the best, and it's designed like a movie in that it tells a story of a squad, and the personalities and all that. But it does some of the best combat and whatnot. And so I would do this. Hey, folk, how you doing? It was set too early for the day for U.S. audience. Time was set too early for the yeah. On Discord, yeah. That's one of my problems with this YouTube channel. Before I ever did any live streams, I developed a fairly big European audience. The biggest single country, and it's like 30% of viewers, at least when I was actively posting daily and whatnot, or twice daily, evening even. 30% plus was American viewers, and so America overwhelmingly the largest country. But if you take Europe as a whole, it would get 50+% of my views. So I've sort of tailored this a bit to be European friendly. I love more American viewers, but I love global viewers because I love to learn other people's perspectives and not just U.S. or Western even. I like our few peoples from other parts of the world. But yeah, we were running it at about what was it, about noon or so on Fridays, and that is sort of early for America. Our movie nights or movie watch parties or whatever. Obviously, it wasn't really night for the Europeans, but yeah, I don't know. And uh, I'm uh, I'm looking for other times to stream than Saturdays and Sundays. I I know I'm sort of making episodes here, but oh, good, Arno's back. Glad to hear you back. Because at enough times that's for me, is interesting things are happening on Saturdays and Sundays. So, and mornings, unfortunately, going to be happening probably in the next year. So I don't want to lose my European audience. I'd love to grow an American audience. But Saturdays and Sundays just don't look to be the good days to do it. And so I don't know. And obviously for now, it's going to stay what it is. You know, currently when I figure out new times to try, I'd love to have at least one good stream for American audiences and one good stream for European audience, time of day. And I'm pretty good at being able to, um, stream either in the morning or in the evenings. That isn't the real issue. It's more what days of the week. So I don't know what I'm going to do going on. I love live streaming with you guys. Not so much that I want to be like I don't consider myself, I sort of consider myself a YouTuber. I know I'm only doing streaming now because streamers, they do it like 6-8 hours a day, and that's not me. I don't want to do that. But I love coming a couple of times a week here, once a week or something over on Slithering TV and hanging out with all of you guys. I love that. But at some point, it's good for 2 to 4 hours at a time, twice a week, not 8 hours a day for me at least. So Empire gives a little and recites expected line. This is a field problem concerning live fire movement, except this time your platoon will have support from the company's weapons platoon. Okay. Ah, yes, the famous. This is a metal tube here with wooden legs. Why is it brown? I don't know. I hate these colorized photos. I hate them with a passion. Heavy weapons coming up. Lieutenant Sergeant Bennett notices a dozen men from the weapons platoon hustle over. They don't have real 30 cals yet, just logs painted black. Those are supposed to be heavy as the real thing, but the beefy officer indicating the weapons platoon carries a log as if it were no heavier than a baseball bat. Lieutenant Stern. Okay. Yes, famous wooden stick. Yes. You guys are being good entertainment while I clean. Well, very good. Not an innuendo by the way. Yes, I know he's got his new Krag rifle today and he's cleaning it up. So, I know I'm sure we'll talk later, Eric, but it can just be a very simple answer. Is the Krag as you expected or hoping it would be? You don't have to give every minute detail here, but just that we can talk about it. Okay. Okay. Verbosity, wave them over. Verbosity. Field Empire will take care of it. Okay. We will wave them over or reduce verbosity. And strides over. Almost like Lieutenant. Yes. Okay. It was a long run from the target range. Replies heavily, but the Krauts will be doing the running when we take crack. Yes. Today, the objective is for a combined arms assault on the farmhouse down there. The field umpire says the point's the distance this time will be as ever as a factor. Tell me what to hit, and I'll hit it hard. Okay. Because field umpire replies, we want to see how your men perform with their rifles before we include the machine guns. Gives a knowing nod at the news. We've got everything but tanks. Each platoon will have a different role to play.
Bennett tells me you're progressing, LT. So today we get to talk about tactics, not just mechanics. without further ado, why don't we go to, I think, the core of how we're different from most tactical games that the casual gamer or others might be familiar with, namely bang, 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 you're dead games. This is true of a fair number of tactical World War II games too, but I don't think of reality. You know, people don't want to die. You fire at them, they're going to get down behind the stone wall, and your bullets aren't going to do much. So, instead you need what's called the 4Fs. So here we are in Germany. You've got elements of a rifle platoon, you've got Germans up north, and your goal is to suppress them first. You're not going to succeed in killing them, they're in pretty good cover, and they're going to put their heads down. So you've started firing, but it's not just bang, bang, bang even for suppression. You have to be smart, you have to use your leadership. You have to bolster, improving their fire. The leader is directing the fire here. He's using a heavy weapon, which is intimidating, higher rate of fire, puts more bullets around the squad. And, you know, when you hear bullets whizzing by, you start to be suppressed, meaning you're keeping your head down. And you can see the color bars here are telling us the state of the enemy's morale. They've gone from green to yellow, and they will shortly be at red. So he's been doing an effective job here. He's suppressed.
Whistle blows. Field problem begins. Okay. Select a squad. Shoot rifle squad may shoot up to 5 hexes away. Shooting will consume up to 2 orders. Shooting through woods will not provide the enemy with cover, but building certainly will. Okay, so select squad. Right click to shoot is consumes. Later. Okay, the stone wall stop bullets, Lieutenant. By the wall says, but they're not invincible there over there. They've got the firepower. Let's make them keep their heads down. You give the orders and your men take aim. The enemy will be partially suppressed, so this should be easier. Okay, select this squad. Shoot at the enemy. Okay, you signal Sergeant Grant across the way. He replies with equal victory. He gets the other squad into position. Glancing through the binoculars reveal Private Roberts as the soldier squints through the circular iron sights at distant targets. Beside him is Private Hancock, who apparently has gained, again mislaid the protective ears on either side of his submachine gun sight. No doubt removes something he considers a distraction. Hancock decided to alter his weapon. If it was for a good reason, you'll want to know. Same thing if it was for a bad one. That's probably it for the rifle work, Sergeant Bennett says. But as the referee makes their calculations, but we could give them a taste of 30 cal instead. Same rounds, but a lot more of them if we had permission to use the radio. Okay, I want to say something here. And like I said, I've had, this is, that's the first Special Service Force stuff. You can see the movie The Devil's Brigade. Talks somewhat fanciful, or shows somewhat fanciful, gamers, how a dramatic, fanciful version of its creation and first big battles. But yes, it said the same rounds, but lots more of them. Talking about the 30 cal. Now, that isn't entirely or isn't always the case. And I don't know how common. I just don't know. But I do know often, like the BAR gunners, and I'm sure many of you know what I'm talking about with a Browning automatic rifle. A lot of the rounds that they would put into those guns were armor-piercing rounds that had a hotter load into it, more powder, and a steel cord or other um, penetrating round, so it wouldn't deform like lead would. If you, I haven't done this, and I'm not recommending anybody try, but if you were to like put one of those rounds in a M1 Garand, it would fire probably safely, but very well may jam the action up because it's just too much of a recoil coming at it. But the VAR and the 1919 or the 1917 machine guns were made to handle it. So a lot of those belts of ammo had AP ammo in them. So although it was the same ammo caliber as the rifles, they were often a heavier load to penetrate something like, stone walls and whatnot. Because depending on the stone, yeah, 30-06 will go right through a stone wall. If it's like a 6-inch stone wall and it's sort of, some sort of softer stone, oh, it'll be ripping through it. It'll be ripping right through it. Now, if it's a 2-foot thick stone that isn't gonna, chip apart too much, that'll be very much. And let's take Eric. It's really nice. Bore is nice. Every metal part is matching. Yeah. Okay, good. A couple of 105 rounds would do the trick if you had those. Yes. Why is Canada written on the emblem there, U.S.? Okay, well, this was a joint. You watch the movie The Devil's Brigade, starring William Holden and a bunch of other people. Highly recommend it. Would be a great movie for our movie nights. It was a unit that was originally created to do to attack Norway, I think to go after the heavy water plants, though that little bit is speculation by me. It was a mixed or a 50-50 unit set up between Canada and the US. It ends up being sent to Italy when the Norwegian raid is canceled. They were also trained as ski troops as well as just elite infantry. And it's the first special service force or something like this. Some people sort of take it as, well, it was definitely special forces type unit, but as, I don't know, as like an early proto Green Beret as opposed to the Rangers of World War II, Darby's Rangers and whatnot, are really much more direct link to the later, more of a direct link, because all these units get disbanded after World War II. There is no, to my knowledge, no direct unit or direct history links to the earlier units. So yes, it's USA and Canada together on it. Yes, okay, Beam. Yeah, Joint Special Brigade, sort of, yes. And they were, at least by the time they're heading overseas, entirely equipped by the Americans. So they're not maintaining any Commonwealth equipment or uniform elements. Pretty much an experimental brigade, yes. And conceptually, the American Army hates elite units, specialty things. You even have, which I don't know the current, because I think they've given up on the beret, the black beret. They should give it back to the Rangers instead of that sand-colored wannabe SAS kind of beret that they gave to the Rangers. When General Shinseki, everybody's going to be special now. We give everybody beret. I don't know if you know how, again, Americans, and if you look at, like, the paratroopers did have sort of somewhat different jackets, but they didn't have much special things showing them out. The American Army hates the idea of elite or specialty type units or troops. It just hates it with a passion. It does everything it can to stamp that out. And so, like, to get the beret, basically some of the American Special Forces, as it was called, who become the Green Berets, and they have a more unique mission, at least originally, than at least most of the stuff that I've seen and read about more recently. But that changes over time. They actually sort of just put on Green Berets and show up for some sort of scheduled demonstration or whatever for President Kennedy at the time, and basically have to get, and they, unapproved. Not, this was out of uniform, but they wore the Green Beret then, that they had bought just commercially, and that's how, and it gets because the president is the commander in chief, and if the president actually makes it a real order, it gets approved. And so, yeah, it's getting President Kennedy to get them to the Green Beret, and then eventually Shinseki gives everybody a beret, because everybody's special. An army of one was one of, I think, at the same time, bullshit, kind of things. It hates it with a passion. Fun fact. Well, paratrooper was for a specific thing, so they needed some special. Yes, they needed special gear. You're absolutely right. But the Army didn't. I mean, they might give them a patch that says, airborne, or, the airborne unit symbol, as opposed to the 1st Infantry Division or the 7th Cavalry, or, whatever. It might have its own patch, but other than that, it didn't want a beret or a, some sort of different uniform thingy, other than, like, you talk about special gear for doing the mission. But, so the American Army does not like esprit de corps of different units. It's trying to do everything the same, which definitely has its drawbacks, shall we say. Right. Okay, so talking about the bullets. No radios are available, however, we do have the flags. The umpire waves at the set of flags marked radio, and you could always send a runner, of course, slower. I should have open fire with the MG first. The rifles did some work. You can do more. I really want to employ the mortar. Let's see, we're going to have. The rifles took easy, accurate shots. The MG can spit out a lot more lead, but that alone isn't enough. That was probably the lesson the Empire wanted to teach. Signal stern with flags. Yeah, now I went through some naval training, way back when. And the Navy, and I forget, I can't remember. I did learn it way back. Semaphore, which whether with just waving your arms or preferably with flags, you could signal, spell words out, and a lot of that stuff, can be done between ships, with flags, but because they wanted to be able to communicate without radios, a lot of, like, Soviet units, the way that they would, depending on when and where and what, but let's presume for the moment, the company command element, which may be in a tank, but may not be, they have sending and receiving radios in their tank units. The platoon commanders have a radio receiver. They can hear what they're being told. Can't do anything else. And if they wanted to communicate to the rest of their platoon and their thing, the commander of the platoon in the tank would open his hatch, get, halfway out of the hatch to there, and start waving the flags around, doing, I presume, a semaphore-like thing, but they may have shorthand signals, often do, and then to tell the tanks what to do. Now, this has a couple of drawbacks, 2 of them particularly. One is it's presuming that somebody in your other tanks are looking at the command tank often enough to realize that someone is waving flags around and to pay attention to what he says to do. Two, the guy waving the flags around might get hit by a stray bullet or something. So, yeah, it's not the best thing, but they were still very much doing that, some of these armies throughout World War II. So flag communication was a very real thing. And like I say, I got my flag training from a naval perspective, because you very well may be, on one ship and another ship's right next to you and you're like transferring cargo or something, but you're signaling, because you don't want to use radios, send the line over or whatever, and trying to do a lot of signaling back and forth. And you're not necessarily using, the flicker light to send Morse code. So they're doing semaphore. I never had any flag training when I was getting my Army officers training way back when. So either I just didn't get those lessons, because I didn't go all the way through. I went through part way through, and then Clinton and other reasons I decided not to continue. But yeah, way back in the day. And the fact that even officers' insignia was not very flashy because of German snipers. Yeah, now that's a different issue. They definitely bring that up in Band of Brothers. They definitely, it's a real thing. Now, there was, like, I think from one of the scenes that I remember from Band of Brothers, there's one guy that's, in like a group of 3 or 4 guys together, I could say waving, but pointing around this way and that way and this other way, telling a story, and then he gets shot, but he's like just, a private or whatever, and the sniper is just presuming that the guy that's doing all the pointing is the officer. What we see a bit, possibly in World War II, but I'm thinking more of Vietnam, the Vietnamese snipers look at either the radio operator or who's standing next to the radio operator, whether he has a handset in his hand talking on the radio or not. But the guy, so the radio operator is supposed to follow, his lieutenant or captain or whoever, follow around. So look at that. Those are real things. Those are real threats. My real question is, and I don't have a good answer to this, and I don't know if there's a good answer. How often, how often are there German snipers around? Are they everywhere? I mean, like in every battle, and I don't mean just a guy who has a scope on his rifle. I mean somebody that is set up in a sniping position, sitting there waiting to identify an enemy officer and then taking the shot. I very much think that they exist. I know that they existed, and I think they are a real threat. I just wonder, is this just something that's on the margins, or something that is, a big issue? Okay, we're gonna signal with flags. Signal stern with flags. Use signals back. Acknowledge all the while the enemy keeps their heads down. Good.
We further reinforce that sense of limited command and control by dividing the turn into leader rounds. If it's your leader round, you only get to lead your men, and you don't get to lead them doing Stern's leader rounds. There's another reason we do leader rounds, to emphasize another coordination problem, namely coordinating your company of 4 distinct platoons, independently led. That's not easy, and so the rounds force you to choose what platoon is doing what. And there's a last reason. The military likes to say, the enemy gets a vote, meaning they're not going to sit quietly while you do all the wonderful things you'd like to do. They might want to do things that interrupt your plan. Kind of like happens in chess. You get a move, they get a move.
Yeah, you get the heavy weapons involved, you'll have to switch leaders. By ending the round, the enemy will then have a chance Like we taking it around. Just a little bit of real star of the show becomes the machine guns, right? Coordination takes time, Sergeant Bennett says.
That end toward the enemy.
Okay, you could act as, but you do not do so yet, right? Okay, so we're going to end the round here. These two have fired. Open fire with the machine gun, so we're going to wish, because we're always, because it's getting covered up by, get moved to the top there. Okay, that's the sound to hear and fear, especially since the machine gun is firing at the enemy beyond the effective range of their rifles. Sergeant Bennett declares, though it would have been even better if you bolstered the men first nearby the field. Umpire checks his watch. Everything is timed. Yes, directness. There's a lot of firepower worth the weight of carrying it forward, Sergeant Bennett says, but if we really want to make them huddle and puddle in their boots, we'll need mortars. Lieutenant Stern will spot the fall of his unit's mortar rounds from his location, the umpire indicates. That's the only way to ensure accuracy. A leader can direct artillery from his position. Mortars don't need to be able to see the enemy directly to lob shells at them. They just need Stern to be in a position to spot the fall of the round. The mortars could sit safely on a reverse slope of the hill and still contribute to the battle. In fact, that is the way to protect themselves, right?
Lay it on them.
Okay. So left click on Stern to spot for the mortars. Three fire the right click for this enemy to click on Stern to spot for the mortars. Oh, I fired again. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay.
So, some of you will recognize this, but note there weren't any casualties. So, now we have to, ideally, flank and finish. And Dearborn, let's hope you can do the job here. So tree about sort of laying down the field work for success. There's a lot of games that focus on drama melee, but from what I've read, for instance, in Leo Murray's book, actually most assaults led to surrender or retreat because people suppressed don't really want bayonets in the stomach.
Yeah, he's very right. Like I say, I think a lot of war games, and particularly a lot of modern games, not necessarily war games, but a lot of modern combat games, are too fixated on casualties, whether wounded or dead, as opposed to morale of combat. Combat Mission, been playing a bunch of that for Slytherin, and that does very much have morale effects as well in the game, and I think that is a big thing. Now, yeah, he's absolutely right. Soldiers don't really want, to be stabbed with a bayonet, but I also think it's just simply what we would tend to call point blank fire. That if the enemy if you can't effectively engage the enemy as they're approaching you, meaning you're being suppressed by enemy fire, you don't want to wait until they're on top of you. If you've got little foxholes or you're behind a wall or you're behind some trees and the enemy's coming at you and you see them coming at you and you are too suppressed to properly fire at them. Yeah, I think you're going to run away because you want to get to a better position. Moment of calm amid all the chaos. Consider the situation in depth. Okay, we could do that.
So I've simplified here, but if you want more depth, The Real Rule of Small Arms in Combat, good 4-page article. War Games by advisor Leo Murray goes into some depth. I will say for most gamers we see in playtesting, this is a significant learning curve. They want bang, 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 you're dead, and they overdo it. We have to train them very hard to do the 4Fs. And with that, we have to train them to know the different types of units and their strength and weaknesses. Here's a bit of XCOM, 2 actions per unit. And I'll let this speak for itself for a moment. Kind of your all-around guys. Notice they're getting into a flanking position. Remember, 4Fs. This is our maneuver element. This is our fire base. Ideally with good leadership, unless you sent the leader to help with the assault. And you can move the machine gun, but then if you do that, they won't be able to fire, right? It's a trade-off. We also have, I think I'll be demonstrating mortars, offboard artillery, smoke, armor. Let's let the mortars speak for themselves now. Notice there's a line of sight blockage with the trees, but the spotter helped you. We model spotting. So your leader may creep up and direct indirect fire from behind the hill. It's combined arms to do the 4Fs. Can't miss a patent quote when you have the chance.
The Army employees field manuals for field problems. They have revised those recently. Now, one thing I want to say here, and I don't know how well this is going to be represented in the game, what they're describing is very much my understanding of the tactics of the Americans in World War II. And which we're obviously playing from the Americans. Now, the German tactics are sort of the opposite, and I don't know how well this will be addressed in this game, in which their suppressive support elements are often the rifles. They I think this is partially doctrinal, but also partially limitations of the weapons that they had. Germany, like most nations, want to get to a reliable semi-auto rifle. That takes a lot of work to get a truly reliable semi-auto rifle. So that, yes, most of the guys have bolt-action rifles. But looking at World War I, and you look at particularly the Germans towards the end of World War I, they have seen that most of the casualties that are happening not because of rifle fire, and they showed how many bullets fired per casualty earlier, thousands, but it's machine guns. And if you look at the Americans, it's only very, very, very late in the war that the Americans put a bipod on the 1919 belt-fed machine gun. Now, they have the BAR. And the BAR is a Browning automatic rifle. It is definitely a machine gun. In fact, it is a stupid machine gun. I mean, I love the BAR, but the Army fucks it up. You know, waits for Browning to die and then fucks it up. The original BARs were designed as a rifle. They're a bit too heavy, but they achieve an effective semi-automatic rifle where most nations can't in World War I. I mean, it's showing up just at the end of the war. But it is showing up without a bipod. It is showing up in a rifle configuration. And I think it is, and how the Army would have employed it on large scale, I don't know. But I think it is meant to be what the British might call a self-loading rifle, meaning you don't have to work the bolt to put in another round. There's a C and Arsenal um, is a really good channel here on YouTube, and they did demonstrations of the different tactics of light machine guns in World War I. A series of videos along with Gun Jesus, Ian from Forgotten Weapons, and they do walking fire and some of this other type of tactics that were at least trained or developed for World War I. I don't know how often they were being used, but and they were definitely looking at that weapon to be a full auto, the BAR as well. But I think it's as much as a semi-auto, overly heavy but semi-auto rifle. The Army fucks it up by getting rid of the semi-auto option, and so you have three options on the selector switch: safe, slow fire, and fast fire. And those two, slow and fast, are both full auto. It's just how fast the full auto is. And I think that is a ridiculous thing. Now, if you put it to slow fire and you have a well-trained operator of the gun, you can, uh, pull off single shots, I think, somewhat easy. But it really is just sort of a semi-auto rifle, a bit heavier than the rest of the M1 Garand. So they're looking at a rifle squad with a BAR, yes, but to use the rifles to do that maneuver element that he's talking about, where the Germans develop what they hope is, and it is to some degree, a large degree, a general purpose machine gun or universal machine gun. One, you could put it in a big heavy tripod of some sort and turn it into a sustained fire weapon. Or two, you can just use the bipod and then have a drum that just holds a belt inside of it. It's not like a drum magazine, it's just a belt holder. And run around with it and hip fire if you want to. I mean, not that that's smart, but you can do that. Because the Germans figure that it is a better thing than to get a squad of riflemen, with a BAR, but a BAR is just 20 rounds, then you got to change that mag, and, it's not that effective of I mean, I'm talking it down, and I'll talk it up, the BAR up at other times, because it's still a cool weapon, and it's still quite effective. But the Germans really want to do that maneuver. They want to have a bunch of different guys, and I think part of the tactical thing is that you set up, a squad or three squads or whatever that are all firing at the enemy position. Now they're set up there, and so that's not just a machine gun firing at them to like return fire. It's a bunch of different people shooting at them from slightly different positions. If you know what I mean. So it's a more dispersal pattern, and it's firing to keeping the enemy suppressed. If they ever pop their head up, you shoot at them, and you keep that fire up on them while you maneuver the machine gun, not necessarily to close assault the enemy with it, like hip firing, charging into the position, but get it to a position in which it completely dominates the enemy and potentially, not just suppressing them, but killing them. You get it around to their flank and you put that fire in, and that is what is devastating. So I wonder if we'll see that have that opposite type stuff from the enemy. There we go, Lieutenant. There ain't nothing a soldier can do about a shell that has a name on. However, the squad isn't considered merely pinned, and they'll stay that way unless you execute an assault. Okay, right. Reveal the enemy's location. Right. Okay. So now we have this. Okay, you might shoot at the enemy all day and only ever suppress them to make sure you remove them from the board. You need to take prisoners. Okay. Right. Oh, I think we need to go back to. Oh, we need. Oh, got to end round. So yeah, I should look down in this corner here. Now we're going to select this unit now. Select units, bolster them. Right. Okay, so he's leading. And we want to bolster them. Okay, select these units.
That's
Okay,
the
they're both.
way!
Now we want to assault here.
Don't stop!
We take the position. Ah, another interesting photo. Okay, so yes. Early or interwar style equipment here. That's looking like the Springfield this time, as opposed to the Enfield, I think. From this angle, it's a bit hard to tell. Okay, as you can tell, I'm fascinated by weapons. That's the way Lieutenant to Sergeant Bennett waves you over the enemy soldiers and their red armbands run off. It'll be hard overseas, but we got the method down. Behind him, the field umpire ticks another box on his clipboard. Okay, their enemy squad has been sighted. They are attempting to reinforce the objectives now. Begun a counterattack. You must deal with them. Does but does not point. Whistle blows. The exercise resumes at once. Okay, new enemy here. Okay, little green eye icon indicates that one of your squads is still undetected by the enemy. Some of their units might be undetected by your squad's green icons denotes this is a given unit. Either side fog of war. So not mere fact that these guys here may be seeing these guys, but not these guys. I'm guessing. Okay. They don't have any action points. They can shoot there. They had enough. Right. Do it. Yeah, I think everybody's spent here. Field makes another note on his clipboard. Great exercise so far, huh, Lieutenant? The lessons learned from this extended exercise help you save lives. Right point. Okay. New enemy, take them out. Right. Okay. These guys can see him, so we're going to come up here. He will lead. Let's first machine gun them. Flanked. Looks like they lost somebody. Let's see if we can then put some mortar fire onto them. Very good. I think we'll go back with one more machine gun fire. And they were spent. I guess that's... Okay, I guess that's finished. No. Okay, I guess I used up my action points there. Yeah, okay, we're gonna... If you had another notice that the other enemy squad is still out there, we need better. Okay, so now we can come here and we can now, I guess, approach them. Failed. Uh-oh. Failed. Well, let's try bolstering the unit. Okay, now let's see if we can go. The other squad is taken prisoner. No running off this time. Whistles blow. Now the exercise is truly over. Draw. Okay. No one out of the action. Continue with the story. Oh, hello, Moshiko. Play RTS games. Okay, well, it is walking. This is the demo. It's not the full game, but yeah, good, you got it. It is walking you through every single step. So I would say it's easy for new players because it's literally walking you through every step to learn it. So I don't think you should have a problem. And of course, if you're new around here, everybody, whether you're over a few people over on that green rumbling service or YouTube or Twitch, please subscribe or follow to the channel. Love to see you here more often. You survived. The enemy is out of business. Yes. So yeah. So if you're this game isn't. I mean, the demo's out now, I believe, and as people are downloading it. So, but the game itself is I don't know how ready. It's far from out. But the demo's here. That's cool. So we're gonna keep the live stream going, but let me just end this episode and I want to thank everybody, and we'll be back next for more coming up. Okay.
Being a strong leader also meant being able to rely on others to help get the job done. That included fellow soldiers who had vastly different strengths and weaknesses than his own.
Okay, so we're going to be continuing this look at Burden of Command. So the exercise is over. Let's move on to the next. The umpire pencils makes a final note to the paperwork atop the clipboard. Mission, draw, finish, field, problem, turn, according to amend. Okay. Let's see. Slow development of attack, notable losses. And the next exercise will not be so easy. You share knowing liquid sergeant. Mentally consider the loss. Solve does it make opponents find the enemy fix? Yes. On, yes. You gather your men up, all 3 squads. Okay, right click the portrait to open it up. Personalize your own officer. Click. Then you can hit the edit button and change your name, portrait, or platoon's insignia. Current mindsets and details are also displayed. Discussed later. Okay. The schedule is tight while there is still some daylight next exercise. Okay, let's aid our men here. Okay, so now we got these guys somewhat improved here. Yeah, click here and see the different stars. Let's do that for him. But can we input? Oh, let's get him improved. And we have loyalty but no prestige. Okay. Continue our journey. Two houses. Okay. Still in Virginia, still September 1942. Charlie Ducks.
No, when we left Fort Leonard Wood, nobody knew where they were going. I mean, they just loaded us on the train, and in fact, we didn't know where we were going till we got close to somebody, how it got out, but somebody said we were going to Camp Pickett, Virginia.
Okay, yes, we're on Camp Pickett, Virginia. Your men trudge down the road towards the next training site. A jeep comes the other way. Oh, Burden with a big green army bags, mail bags. Think that's our mail, Lieutenant Sergeant asks. That could be something from my wife. Yes, okay. After being separated from wife, a hard marriage supposed to be a bond, but right now the army comes first. The men are certainly distracted by the possibility of their own letters too. Sergeant Grant glances between Bennett and yourself and Eagle Fire. Trust, double time march, loyalty minus, okay, prestige, plus flag down the jeep. Trust up, prestige down. We're gonna do this. You have Bennett flagged down the jeep, and the opposing sergeant does precisely. The first discussion results in the transfer of their sex. Okay. You know it's bad when you're looking forward to a cold lunch, Private Morris says, the lanky soldier marching beside him. Beams up. Nobody would think that that folding is U.S. Army, right? Okay. Could be worse. Private remarks briefly. We could be Marines. Okay. That's marching cadence. Okay, well, we just got a lot of trust from. Well, that was loyalty. Oh, let's do trust. Okay. Funny and true, although given the amount of amphibious training that's scheduled ahead. Right. This is integrated company command operations. Field umpire with the clipboard says his uniform is somehow crisp despite the heat, right down to the black band of field umpire. Good news is that the next exercise is ready. The bad news is that you are not. Okay. Indeed, Lieutenant Stern and Dearborn will be part of this force. You yourself will be acting as their captain. You will have limited time to consult with them. Time, sir, how limited? Field umpire taps his watch lightly. Hurry over the rise. Over the top of the rise, you find two lieutenants in the midst of a conversation. Stern paces about, kicking pine cones up with every step. Across from him, is a man bearing a tall without needing height, his hands clasped lightly behind Lieutenant Dearborn. Lieutenant, we were just discussing strategies while we waited upon the captain. I'm the captain for this field problem. Okay. Dearborn says nothing, but upon finding you gaze upon him, he tenders over a little nod of understood situation. What do we know about the enemy? Yes. Reinforced platoon from Red Force, at least one machine gun. I didn't hear anything about that in the briefing. Lieutenant Stern says very brief briefing. An umpire may have mentioned it to me in passing. What kind of tricks? Red Force isn't entirely in the building, unlike the last time. They are spread out on the flanks, likely as not. Okay, right. Let's get into it, Captain, says Sergeant Bennett. Captain is a wild card for orders. He can activate any unit in his company, regardless of active leaders, by using the Take Command button. Okay. Furthermore, Captain can bolster, press, or rally any squad in his company that is merely adjacent to him. In this scenario, you will play on the map as a Captain Lamb so that you can learn about the captaincy role. Captains provide flexibility and orders. Captain can make machine get leading. He can also bolster press. Okay.
You may think tactical leadership is all about leading men in combat, difficult moral decisions. But frankly, a lot of it's about coordination, or what the military calls command and control. Wouldn't be a credible leadership RPG without some of that. And you've got some problems, LT. Look at you. You're inexperienced. You've got 4 orders to run 3 squads. Contrast the captain. He's got 5 stars. He's got 6 orders to run. Wouldn't it be nice if you had that? Well, maybe someday you will. Now, you're running a platoon. You're not running Stern's weapon platoon. You're running your 3 squads. And the interface reinforces your spotting them. There are ovals for your platoon. They're also over here. And you have an insignia for your particular platoon. Here, reminiscent of the Cottonbalers insignia. And by the way, you can customize that.
Whistle is blown. Exercise begins. 4 turns.
Mortars, forward.
Okay, so
Quickly now.
you select the captain, hit the rally button to the adjacent unit. Unlike a regular leader, a captain can bolster, press, rally the squad. Okay, so we're going to select the captain. And okay, that squad is getting their shit in gear, but we can press them to do more, Sergeant Bennett. Now, the soldiering isn't about desserts and beds of flowers. Okay, yeah, interesting. Okay, together, you and Bennett get the men moving again. This is no time to rest, not yet. Press order will expand one of the leader's orders, but then refresh a single order for the squad. This is most often used when a squad is in a bad position, but it can also be spent and can't act. Okay. So we want to select the captain again. We use the press button, which is this. Okay, press the adjacent squad. Pressing will give the unit an additional, because we can see that they're spent, meaning they have no more green dots.
There's another reason we do lead arounds, to emphasize another coordination problem, namely coordinating your company of 4 distinct platoons, independently led. That's not easy, and so the rounds force you to choose what platoon is doing what. And there's a last reason. The military likes to say, the enemy gets a vote, meaning They're not going to sit quietly while you do all the wonderful things you'd like to do. They might want to do things that interrupt your plan. Kind of like happens in chess. You get a move, they get a move.
All right. Umpire writes something in a small box, then initialize it. Okay. Nothing like a few sharp words from a sergeant to get a squad moving. And now we need to lay down some fire to see whether the enemy is hiding over there. Recon by fire. Okay. Send a messenger to Dearborn. That's his men, and you'll probably have other things to take care of shortly. No comment except to say that the captain's time is valuable. This way, the captain has subordinates. They can order their squads while their captain handles the bigger picture at the same time. Okay, so select a squad to click on the recon by fire button. Okay, fire on the hex. Recon by fire is exactly ordinary fire, except that if an enemy is hidden in the hex, there are chance that they will fire back and be revealed. As usual, shooting with a rifle squad will consume up to 2 orders. So, there. They are there. Excuse me. There they are. Sergeant Bennett calls out, and they're dug in like a dog on Monday. Time for the mortars. Makes a note on his clipboard. Right. Okay. Quick wave of flags gets Stern's attention, and now the question of targets. The refs want 2 objectives taken. They want casualties to be light. 2 objectives are marked on your map. Certainly, the refs will tell you when you have officially seized them and if the enemy has taken them back. Okay. No one is in possession. Things get a little tricky. All right. Casualties happen. All right. Right now, the men are fresh. Right. So, let's. Okay. View victory conditions. Okay, that's what we need to take. To select the captain. 3, click support button. Okay. So we're taking over. Yeah, let's try 105 off map. Okay, flags go up. The enemy over there registers the hits. You have unleashed the 105s instead of the mortars. The Empire. I will recommend medial artillery identification. Now then, you still have mortars available to you. Proceed to overlook the position and act as spotter for those lighter rounds. Time to move to high ground. Captain will see all which. Okay, so we want to hit him. Higher elevation until you can see more. Very useful. Use waypoints. Okay, so we're not going to go straight this time. We're going to go my waypoint. So now he's up on the
Command and control and practice. We've got an assault situation. We're hoping to take out these Germans here. To make it a little clearer, let's turn on bases. And why don't I bring down one of my squads? Notice up here it's indicating it's going to be my round because I'm doing something. So it's committed to moving my platoon. Now I could move everybody now, but I want to emphasize you don't have to do everything at once. Let's just say I want to pass, see what the enemy does. So I do. Luckily they're pretty passive. I'm going to creep these guys up. I'm going to use hotkeys to make this faster. Now I feel in pretty good position for an assault, but unfortunately it's my round, so I can't really start firing astern. Let's pass. Remember, leadership rounds, command and control.
See a lot from up here.
Command and control in practice. We've got an assault situation. We're hoping to take out these Germans here. To make it a little clearer, let's turn on bases. And why don't I bring down
I think we should.
one of my squads. Notice up here it's indicating it's going to be my round because I'm doing something. So it's committed to moving my platoon. Now I can move everybody now, but I want to emphasize you don't have to do everything at once. Let's just say I want to pass, see what the enemy does. So I do. Luckily they're pretty passive. I'm going to creep these guys up. I'm going to use hotkeys to make this faster. Now I feel in pretty good position for an assault, but unfortunately it's my round, so I can't really start firing astern. Let's pass. Remember, leadership rounds, command and control.
Enough to sketch out a rough battle plan. Field umpire taps his pencil against his clipboard as you get into position. Here we go. A concealed view of the battlefield, not perfect, but you can take a look at the houses down there. The enemy is almost certainly inside. We could ring their bell with some artillery. Okay, yes, a lot of artillery. Okay, so do we still have? Okay, we've used up the heavy stuff there, which maybe we shouldn't have. I don't know. Yeah, let's mark this objective. The flags go up. Exercise is paused as the rest check your numbers, then verify things with the range fighters. Eventually, they agree that the mortars were effective. That's the match. Then Sergeant says you surveyed and hammered the target. They look suppressed. So follow up with those buildings before they can recover. Discerning enemy capabilities is a key point of the exercise. However, there's another small matter. The umpire points down the hill at where the team of Stern's machine gunners have positioned big wooden logs that represent their Browning 30 cals. The trouble is the weapons have a blind side in regards to the southern objective. You summon the runner, give the orders for him to nearby. The umpire gives you a little nod of approval. Okay. Select a unit, use the take command button, and right click the adjacent hex. All units determines. Okay. So let's see this. We're going to take command and we're going to get them to look that way, I think is what we're doing. Swiftly reposition their wooden logs to cover more of the battlefield. That will do. Maybe as they fire.
Captain Lamb here can do a couple of things. First, he's going to take this squad. You notice it's spent, and he's going to revive it. He's going to press it, give it an order. Notice he can do this even though it's your round, because he's the captain. He's going to bolster. I bet you can see where I'm headed now. And let's do the assault. Notice I get to do my assault during my round. Hoping for the best. Ha! I use the captain to glue my company together, to coordinate my weapons platoon with my infantry platoon. So, use your orders carefully. Place your leadership appropriately. Manage command and control. Command and control on a battlefield is hard. That's why you've got the burden of command.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Beam Slam, about I think these instructions and principles would be useful for playing. Yes. how do I put this with command mission? Um, I have a serious problem playing that game in an offensive way. I I don't know what it is, meaning because I think I have, bring up suppressive fire. It seems like it's hard to get things to happen in a coordinated manner in the assault. Like you drive one tank down the road, it blows up. The next tank comes down, it gets blown up, and as opposed to having 3 or 4 tanks all crest, trying to get like all the tank platoons to crest the hill at once. And there's one German tank down there, you get to lose one tank, but the rest of your tanks get to fire, kind of thing. I don't, I you know. And part of my problem, I know, is that I'm doing it live streaming, so I'm trying to keep things flowing as opposed to even more detailed micromanage to get up suppressive fire and whatnot. So yeah, it's an interest. 2 houses, 2 objectives. Okay, find, fix the enemy, take these objectives. Right. Okay, flank. Okay, fire, and then finish them with the assault. So what I want to do here is leading right now. Okay, so what we're going to do here is bolster this unit.
Gentlemen, to me.
And we're going to, okay, we can't from here. This is a problem. I wanted to. Right, we're respond by fire since we can't assault there. Okay, so we got them to shoot back. They're suppressed, right. What I want to do is get these guys to machine gun there. So they're suppressed, which may not be for the best. Okay. They're out of actions. Let's end this turn. Hi, the French speaking in German. I mean, they are Vichy French, but still. Okay, now we want to get this guy here. And they blocked by line of sight here. Okay, these guys. Oh, these guys are suppressed. Good. Very good. And I think that's it for this turn, or this round.
Hello, LT. I want to talk to you about one last nice aspect of your ace, your captain. He can influence troops adjacent. Doesn't sound that powerful, but it turns out to be quite efficient. So I'm going to have him bolster, I'll use hotkeys here, this adjacent member of your platoon. You didn't have to pay. Let's bolster these guys. Still didn't have to pay. Notice the enhanced movement. And if you want to be sneaky, you can even take command of one of my or I'd say one of your platoon squads, and pay their initial activation for their move. That leaves you free to do whatever you might need to do. Assault, lead firefights, etc. You can also rally. Powerful.
It's like no one quite sure what's going on. There's some yelling between umpires about the bombardment. It takes a little. Since finally the umpire breaks out their field radios, at least you think it's a radio. Look at that, says they hope they can prepare that rig down a mite before we deploy. Stern leads the weapons platoon. Dearborn has the 3rd platoon, but for this field problem, you are their captain. Your strategy is theirs. Both objectives. Glance at the umpire's clipboard. Sergeant Bennett remarks quietly that 2 of you watch the radio operator's work. He's going to rank your personal performance. That means leading an assault, bolstering squads, rallying squads, shooting at the enemy. Okay. What's next? Okay. Take this objective. Oh shit. Oh, take this. This is the one I want to take. Okay. Assault the 2 objectives. Right. These guys are suppressed. I think these guys are still suppressed. So what we're going to see about doing here is we want to. He will lead. He will bolster this. Okay, well, maybe not. Okay, lieutenant. Yes, the lieutenant. No, yes, the lieutenant. Not. Just the lieutenant. Move to here. Yes, we want to risk exposing the fire. Now, we want to rally this squad here. Oh, they're rallied. Okay.
What are you, stupid?
Okay, we're going to we're gonna failed weapons range. Okay, well,
Come on!
yeah, go hand to hand. We just crapped out. Maybe we can shift the odds back in our favor to assault.
No can do.
Okay, well, that didn't go as well as I hoped. Okay, so end this turn. The enemy can do something. We're back. Okay, so we're going to okay, maybe he can. He can line of sight it. Right. Yes. Okay, so now maybe next round we can get these guys to move. Nearby radio crackles. One of the refs cups his hand over the headphone and blows his shoulders. Exercise pauses the other part. To the clipboard. Okay. Points towards the south edge of the field where there are soldiers emerge from the bush with blue armbands. All my men are accounted for. No idea. They are the Empire's very own responsibility to get those men out of the exercise. You're gonna have to be nickel company men. Okay. Move this unit. Units can always attempt to retreat from friendly edge of the map. This isn't shoot at them, they will likely, despite their level of morale. Well,
Truck.
if flag goes up, referees whistle, treat casualties. At least that's how Empire's called it, but between you and me, they're just making stuff up, right? Yes, well. Okay, well. Yes, let's. Too far. He's too far. Okay. Failure due to low. Okay, well, we will try to rally these guys. Okay, we can't. Invalid target. Suppressed. Movement point 2. Okay, well. Oh, I wanted him to. Okay, well, I had him do the wrong thing. Well, that's my fault. Oh, bolster. Okay.
We shall soon break them.
Okay, maybe I'll get this right next time. Who knows? He will get supporting mortars here. They wanted to cut things short, LT. I just noted. Set the rules. Okay. So. Why? Movement points too low. Plan. No. Well.
We shall go forward.
Oh, remember to bolster. That's right.
Follow me to victory.
Now let's assault this. They failed. Okay, well. Yeah. Captain runs up. Captain comes here. Captain's going to bolster morale here. Okay, they're bolstered. Captain's going to... We don't have any... Okay, well... Our apologies. Oh, I crashed. Well... Okay, everyone. Ah, boy, crash. Okay, well, let's see if we can get this thing opened back up here. Where did I put the icon? There it is. Just for fun. Okay, so saves. There were some saves in the thing. Okay, tutorial. 3 turn. Maybe go back that, load that. Well, what do you guys think of this game? Either those currently here. A bullet hit you? No, I don't know. It crashed. But what do you guys think of this game, everyone? Looks at potential, Arnold says. Okay. All right. Well. See if we can do this better here. Already bolstered. Okay, so these are already bolstered. So we're going to move to here. And now we're going to try to assault this.
We have them now.
Alright, they surrender. Good, we got that position. Not gonna lie, I like the tutorial with the interviews of the veterans. Makes it really grounded. And suddenly makes it more real. Yes. That's one thing that is I think important here. Well, let's end this. Oh well, no, maybe he can move with the platoon to here. I think he's going to move the platoon. Hopefully he's moving the platoon. Oh, failed. Okay. This is supposed to be a very morale intensive game. So let's move you up to here. So having that only Captain Land, yes. Okay, now what he's going to do is get to the port, 60mm mortar, and put it on that machine gun. Because he's spotting. So yeah. All right. Well, I think we're going to end this here. I know we had a crash. I want to thank Eric, Beam Slam, Moshika, if you're still around, Elizabeth, if you're still around, Lord Samuel, if you're still around. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and of course Arno. And if Toy Jet is still lurking in the background, I don't know. Thank you guys for hanging out with me here today, taking a look at Burden of Command. I think this game has huge potential for what it is. I mean, it isn't, Space Marine 2 or something, but the whole psychological elements of battle looked at much more than just killing the enemy here. So yeah, I want to thank you all. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with some War Thunder. Maybe some of you guys, I don't know if Arno's feeling up to it yet to join us. I hope so. Hope he's getting better. And probably next Saturday we'll be back to playing, Strategic Command World War One. I think this is enough look at this for now. So thanks everyone. See you soon.